It's Levack and Goz on 104.5 The Team.
Lots of news coming out of Giants land, and every time I think I know what's going on, it changes. So a guy who I know has a way better shot of having it all put together than myself, Jordan Ranaan, joins us. Jordan, Pat Shermer, the newest...
Wait. Did you have me on last time? Did you have me on? Who? Was it somebody else on in my place? Was somebody else on in my place?
No, look, just you know way more than I do about the Giants. Come on.
You know better. If you want the right information, you should know where to go, man.
Look, if I can give credit without you even correcting me, fearless reporting.
There it is. Fearless reporting.
There you go.
So, all right, Jordan.
I'll leave it at that.
A week ago, we're told Matt Patricia is going to be the guy. We had people calling up and telling us the whole nine. And then now Pat Shermer's the guy. Is he the guy?
Pat Shermer is the focus. The Giants' focus is on Pat Shermer. It would be a big surprise if he wasn't their guy, if it didn't come out that way. But the Giants are intent on playing completely by the rules here, as much as they think they can. And they're not offering any contract to anybody. They're not doing that little, hanky-panky behind closed doors in that regard. So it's kind of set up. Both sides realize that it's headed in that direction. But if there is an outside shot that, and I don't think it's likely. It's very unlikely. But if somebody comes in and let's say the Arizona Cardinals decide to offer Pat Shermer $15 million a year all of a sudden, what's going to stop Pat Shermer at this point from taking that job?
Oh, I think that's
right.
Is that
so? But the Giants are going to set up a second interview. I mean, the Giants obviously can match that if they wanted to, but the Giants are going to set up a second interview next week, is my understanding, and then they'll proceed from there. And if the Vikings lose, they could just hire him.
But okay, so let's say he is the guy. Is he the right guy?
I'm a little torn on this one. I don't. First of all, I don't know how you know that. I mean, think about it. 2 years ago, the Eagles wanted Ben McAdoo, right?
Yep.
They wanted to bring him in for a second interview. He looked like he was going to be their favorite to get that job. All of a sudden, the Giants went. They got Ben McAdoo. They closed that deal. The Eagles took Doug Peterson. That's how that turned out. Now, there's a lot to like about Pat Shermer. But, I know him. I was in Philadelphia. He was there as well. There's a lot to like of him as a coach. He's a X's and O's schemes. He knows how to work with players. He knows how to. He's not married to a scheme, or he's just going to not change his ways and be sort of arrogant about it in a way that it seemed like Ben McAdoo was, and he just wouldn't adjust his offense and make it fit around his players, and tried to make the players fit around the offense, which kind of backfired in his face. So Pat Shermer's worked in different systems. You like that about him. He's worked with Andy Reid. Is where he grew up under Andy Reid, right? He worked under Chip Kelly, and most recently, before he became offensive coordinator for the Vikings, he was working under Norv Turner. So you're talking about a really wide range: West Coast offense, a spread offense, and then Norv Turner, like a real vertical offense. Like he can really put it together, and you really like that about him. Now, my one concern is Pat Shermer, and I know him, is not exactly full of personality. Right? He's a little dry. He's not the kind of guy who's going to be loud and boisterous or yell. And so I do wonder if he's the guy who can inspire his team. Now, when I think back and I look at it, Mike Tomlin, that's his specialty. But if you look at like Bill Belichick, I'm sure when Bill Belichick was hired to coach the Patriots after he failed the first time with the Browns, people had the same questions about him. I mean, you don't look at Bill Belichick and think he's going to give you these big inspirational speeches, right?
Right.
And look, what is he? He's the greatest coach of all time. So, I mean, it's just something you have to at least keep in the back of your mind when you're talking about Pat Shermer. Now, I'm hoping he learned from his mistakes in Cleveland. He went 9-23, which in retrospect probably isn't even that bad. But you hope that he learned from that experience and is able to carry that over here I do hear players like playing for him. I do hear that he's a very bright offensive mind. And I also heard that he's going to have a very impressive staff probably with him because he comes from that Andy Reid tree. There's a ton of quality coaches that are coming from that tree. So there'll probably be some influence from there. And, there's a lot to like, obviously, with Shermer. He obviously blew the Giants away in his interview to put himself in this position. If he wasn't the number one candidate, which I don't think he necessarily was, I do think if all things were blank and there was no ties and all jobs were considered equal, the Giants would have wanted to bring in Matt Patricia. But it wasn't. He was tied to Detroit for quite a while, the day that Bob Quinn took over. And, the situation was just better there for him. Everybody around the league knew that the likelihood was that he was going to land there. So, but Pat Shurmur was not far behind Matt Patricia, from what I understand.
Giants insider for ESPN, Jordan Ranaan with us right now on 104.5 The Team.
Yeah, you bring up the Matt Patricia there, and Albany fans here, because of his ties to the capital region, there were fans rooting for him to get the job. The Lion connection, it's just Bob Quinn's the difference between him being the Lions head coach and the Giants head coach?
I think it's a little bit of everything. The Lions have a good setup there. We had one of our insiders at ESPN ask people around the league, executives, coaches, and stuff like rank the jobs and which ones they thought were the best job. And the Detroit job was number one.
Wow.
Because it's like Matt, who, like you said, the whole connection to Bob Quinn, that's his guy. His guy is the general manager. That makes a nice blend and able to work together. But they have a 30-year-old quarterback in his prime. I mean, they have good pieces around them. They're on the verge of being a good team. There's little pressure. It's Detroit. If you won there, you'd be an absolute hero. I mean, they've never won. They've never come in your entire lifetime.
Right.
They've won one playoff game. So you do anything good in Detroit, and all of a sudden, he's looking good. So there's a lot to like about that job. I mean, they have a top-notch cornerback in Darius Slay. They have a good pass rusher. They have a good middle linebacker that they drafted this year in Jared Davis. They have a quarterback with some weapons to build around and a decent offensive line around him. So, yeah, the Lions' job, I think, is just all around was just a better opportunity. And that's why you saw Matt Patricia in Detroit. And I don't think there was really that much doubt. I mean, there was always that, even when it became known that by some of us that the Giants liked Matt Patricia, there was still that cloud hanging over the head that, you know what, he ultimately could choose Detroit, and he did.
Jordan, you wrote an article today at ESPN.com talking about the quarterback impact of hiring Pat Shurmur. Who's going to be under center, in your opinion, when the season starts next year?
Yeah, I mean, this is straight guesswork at this point, basically, because, my gut tells me that the Giants want to keep Eli Manning, and Pat Shurmur has shown an ability to work with different kind of quarterbacks and make his offense work for the quarterback. From what I understand, they basically had an offense built around Sam Bradford, right, going into this year. And the way that Pat Shurmur has operated, he molded the offense and changed it as the season went along, and now they're running a different offense for Case Keenum. So he is definitely a guy who's versatile and can handle different quarterbacks. So I think he could take Eli Manning, try and make it work for a year or two. I think that would be the preference of the Giants. The caveat here is this, right? It's going to ultimately come up and be Eli Manning's decision. He knows where the situation's headed. He's not going to be the quarterback for that much longer. There's a good chance they draft a quarterback at number 2. Worst case scenario, they have Davis Webb sitting in the wings. The second something goes wrong for Eli Manning with the Giants, he's going to be back on the bench, right?
Right.
It's inevitable at some point he's going to be pushed out sooner rather than later. So if he decides, I want to go make one more run, let me go somewhere where I'm really wanted, where I'm going to be their quarterback, at least for this year, and they're totally sold and totally in on him, that'll ultimately, I think, come down to what Eli Manning wants. But otherwise, I think the likelihood is that he'll start the season with the New York Giants and as their starter under center.
All right, what's more likely to be at the Super Bowl this year? A team you covered before, the Philadelphia Eagles, or yourself in Minnesota?
The Eagles. I do not. Actually, it might go hand in hand. I don't like my chances of being there, regardless. But if I am there, it's because I'm helping out and covering the Eagles. So, hand in hand. I like the Vikings this week, though, a little bit. And I liked the Eagles last week. I know a lot of people didn't like the Eagles. And I'm going to be down there covering this week. I covered some last week. The Eagles, that underdog factor was a big deal down there last week. You know, they were playing it up big time. And you could tell Doug Peterson, their coach, was playing up. Our team, look, we're the number one seed. Nobody gives us credit. We're the underdogs. It's not like we're putting in a nobody quarterback. I mean, Nick Foles is a guy who threw 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in the season in the NFL.
Right.
Not a total scrub. And they played that up, and it worked to their favor, and they snuck one out. But I think this time the Vikings are a little better team overall than the Atlanta Falcons. I like Minnesota this week, and I like them playing a home game in the Super Bowl, which I'm kind of intrigued by.
That's exciting.
Nobody's ever seen it.
Right. Jordan Ranaan with us right now. Covering the Giants, used to cover the Eagles.
Are you guys going to miss me, though? Are you going to miss me?
Yes. Yeah, we were devastated by this news.
That was his way of, coy asking if you'll come join us, man. Come on now.
I know, but maybe one of the other guys you like to bring on now is going to be there.
You're still, we always make room for you, though. Come on now. I will ask you this. There's a story about
I'm throwing dudes left and right, by the way.
I know, man.
2018, Jordan.
We got a Philadelphia Eagles fan punching a police horse. Are the Eagles fans still the worst in sports?
You know what? I honestly, look, Eagles fans are crazy and passionate, but unfortunately, sports fans in general have caught up to them. We've seen a lot over the past couple of years of problems, guys getting beat almost to death or maybe even to death in places like, Oakland and San Francisco. And, other places are catching up to Philadelphia. But I will say this. I like being at that stadium, and I enjoy that atmosphere. It really is. It's a good atmosphere there. It's just, that place rocks. Those people are crazy. They're so invested in their team. It's a completely different animal than most other places. Like when you're covering the Giants, right? When the Giants have a game, you can go walk on the street in Manhattan and barely notice the Giants have a game, right?
Right.
But when you're in a place like Philadelphia and the Eagles have a game, and you wake up in the morning, and I'll be staying at a hotel. And I'll wake up in the morning and I'll see people walking around and doing whatever, getting on the train or walking on the street and getting breakfast. Everybody's wearing an Eagles jersey. Everybody's all completely in on the Eagles. It really is. It has a feel to it. It just has a vibe to it that the city is all about the Eagles. Everything is about the Eagles, and it really is a good football atmosphere. I moved to Philadelphia, ended up living there for 12 years, and I didn't think I'd like it that much when I first got there, and I hated the fact that I hated the whole Eagles vibe, and when I first got there, it was like, these people are crazy, it's so annoying, because at the time they were really good. That was the height of the Donovan McNabb era, and it was like they can never lose. They in the eyes of the Eagles fans, they never had a chance to lose a game. And there's no way in the world they could lose the NFC Championship to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which, by the way, happened. But as I lived there longer, they actually weren't as good. But I learned to actually enjoy the atmosphere that they have and the passion that city has for its team. It's pretty cool.
Jordan Ranaan, he covers the Giants. He's. I'm hoping you find a way to sneak into Minnesota because we will miss you, my brother.
I will try. I wouldn't count on it, though.
All right. Well, if you do make it...
If it was 75 and sunny, I might push a little harder.
Yeah, of course.
Well, if you do make it, beers are on Goz.
All right, perfect.
Just saying. Oh, always. I know that's how you work. That's how you work with Armin. That's how you work with Goz. It's always on the other guy. No matter what chair you're sitting in, you can be when you're in the power chair, you're pushing it off to the other guy. Isn't it supposed to be the other way around?
That's how I've stayed alive so long. What are you talking about?
God, come on, man.
It's survive and
Tell this
adapt,
guy.
right? Survive and adapt.
Tell this guy to pick up a tab once in a while.
What's a tab? I get your phone's breaking up, Jordan. Can't hear you anymore.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
All right, brother.
See you, dude.
We hope to see you soon, man.
All right, we'll speak soon, man.